Hi, good morning everyone. Welcome to another one of my videos. This is very different to my last one where I was in the garden where it was cold, and today I am warm next to the fire. It's early morning and everyone else is asleep, and I thought I would talk to you today about my favourite children's books throughout my life, which isn't very long because I'm not really old. So I hope you grab yourself a drink of some sort. I have coffee here, so I'm going to do that. But before I talk about my favourite children's book of all time, my favourite ones, there is a book that I forgot in my last one that I'm actually surprised I completely forgot even existed. So I'm gonna go and tell you about that today as well. I've put cinnamon in this coffee because I used to do that as a kid. I used to put cinnamon in it and it made it taste like Christmassy. So we're gonna have Christmas coffee, talk about books, and just enjoy life. So, first book, which is not a kid's book that I used to love as a child, is Alan the Christmas Donkey by Tracy Garton. And I think I read this like 5 or 6 times. I used to read this like every single year when I was a child. And it's just a non-fiction book about a woman who, sorry, my dog's here. Hi Marley, you want to join in too? This is Marley, by the way. Meet Marley. Hi. And it's about a girl, well, not a girl, a woman who starts up a donkey sanctuary. Just because she finds one lonely donkey in a field and she's like, I can't have this because he was being mistreated. And then she ends up starting the Radcliffe Donkey Sanctuary, which is in England. And I think I just loved that it was just a true story, that it was easy to read, that I learned loads about farming, I learned loads about donkeys. And Alan is just this, she is actually a very, very cheeky donkey, and he goes and he like ruins Christmas, and he makes her life quite difficult. But I just absolutely just fell in love with just, I like animals. I actually love animals, don't I? Do I love animals? So, yeah. Who wants to join in? Okay. So next one on my list. I apologise for the dog, but we're just going with it. It's too cruel to push him away. Okay, so next one on my list is one of my favourite books of all time, and I love, it's one of these Puff and Modern classics. I love modern classics, especially children's modern classics, and that is Goodnight Mr. Tom. And Goodnight Mr. Tom is just one of the most heart-wrenching books ever for like a children's book. It is set in World War II. The main character is an evacuee. He goes to live with this old man who's like not really that like, you know, bothered about the fact that there's a child there. And then over time they grow like this really lovely like father and son bond together. And the boy has such an awful background as well. Like his mum is horrible, and it's one of these stories where the child is actually happy that they've been evacuated because they actually now have a better life. And there's another one that's similar called The War That Saved My Life, about a girl who, what does she have? She has some sort of foot problem. What's it called? Clubfoot, I think. And she also was like abused and was able to go and live a better life after she was evacuated. But just the father and son love and the relationship between the boy and Tom is actually, oh, it's just so lovely, and it's heartwarming, isn't it? Okay, sit. Good boy. Okay, so next we're going to be talking about another animal book. I like animal books. Oh dear, that's not good. Sit down. Is Rascal, and this is by Sterling North, and this is a true story by this guy who stole a raccoon when he was a child from a tree, and he kept it as a pet. Is that not like the coolest thing ever? I wouldn't recommend taking random animals and stealing them. Would you? Would you recommend them doing that? No, see, I wouldn't do that either. Even Marley wouldn't do that. But I just loved, I only read this once, but I just adored animals. I like animals. I love animal books. I just, even just like the true stories, even the ones are meant for kids, but you just have animals and they're just cute and they do things differently, and I don't know. I just it's so interesting to see someone take like a wild animal and like look after it. It's probably probably encourages children to go and like, you know, steal raccoons from their bins or something. But this is, I don't know. This isn't actually, this video is making me want to reread all these books. I love these. Okay, moving on. What should we do next? Let's go with Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl's Matilda. Now, I used to read a lot of Roald Dahl when I was younger. In fact, when I was younger, I used to think this was the biggest book ever because it was the biggest out of all my Roald Dahl stuff, and I was like, this book is huge. But I can relate to Matilda to some degree because she just sits in her room and she just reads books. I used to do that when I was younger. And I'd be surprised if you didn't know the story, but she's so clever, she's so smart that she has so much like brain power that she's able to move things with her eyes, which as a Christian I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that. It feels slightly witchcrafty, which is something that I personally try to stay away from. But it's just Matilda. I used to read this every Roald Dahl day. I used to sit and just read the whole thing. I always used to read it over the summer. Just sit in the garden where it's nice and warm. You have like a cold drink and you just sit and you read the whole of Matilda in one go. It's actually quite delightful. And I love the little like stories that Roald Dahl always comes out with, you know, like the different things that Matilda gets up to when she's trying to get back at her parents, like gluing their hat on, and you know, she goes and puts the parrot like in the chimney, and she's just, I don't know, she seems like she's this perfect child, but she's not, because she's very mischievous. And I love Roald Dahl. I used to absolutely love Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like the whole, like just as a whole. Funny enough, I haven't actually seen the Wonka movie. I don't know why. I think I was like at college and was just like really, really busy or something. Yeah, but I love Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which is the Gene Wilder one. I love the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I love the book. I just love lots about Roald Dahl. Yeah. Although I will say some of his stuff is actually weird. Like some of his stuff is proper weird. Like I don't like the twits. And I think some of his stuff, when you read it, you're just like, what is this? Even like James and the Giant Peach, like why would you come up with that? That's just like really weird. I think, yeah, I do like Roald Dahl. And I've been to the Roald Dahl Museum when I was a kid. That was really fun. It's like in England somewhere. Anyway, Matilda, one of my favourite books when I was younger. Okay, next one we have is like so kind of random. I feel like all my books are random, but I actually love a lot of things. Like I love just like random things that I don't know about and then reading about them and learning about them. And that is Banner in the Sky by James Ramsey Ullman. And this was recommended to me by my pen pal like years and years and years ago, and I'm still pen pals with her now actually. It's really cool that I actually got to meet her at like this camp that we went to. Anyways, long story short, this is a story about a boy who this is a non-fiction. So he's in Switzerland and he wants to climb to the top of the Citadel, which is in the Alps. I'm pretty sure it's not a real mountain. And it's just the story of one boy's determination to just keep going. And you can see on the cover there that he's climbing up the side. There's this one scene where he's like climbing up through these rocks and there's like this hole and his dad can't fit, so he has to go through it himself. And it's like so claustrophobic. I used to hate that. This is why I actually, talking about James and the Giant Peach, I used to hate James and the Giant Peach because he goes like inside the peach and he like is all, I don't know, it was too like claustrophobic for me and I didn't like it at all. But yeah, that is Banner in the Sky. I just found it really fascinating. It's just a boy going on an adventure and it's just fun. And you get to learn loads about climbing. I love books that, even though it's fiction, you get to learn loads about how other people do things with other hobbies. Like I would probably never go climbing myself, but I can learn about climbing through this book. And I've read this 1 or 2 times as well. It's actually quite an old copy. I think someone had already had it. But yeah, that is Banner in the Sky. And then I have one more, which is technically a series, but it's kind of like, you'll get the idea. And that is Hetty Feather by Jacqueline Wilson. And you can see this is a well-loved book because the middle of it is split. So this is actually Hetty Feather and Sapphire Battersea. It's like a 2-in-1 book. So halfway through, you have the second book. But you can see it's split in the middle, and so I had to put tape on it, like it's falling apart. There's like nothing on, there's like the back's falling apart. I can't remember how old I was, but I remember going to Waterstones. I assume it was Waterstones. And I had one of those like free book token things from like World Book Day that you get at school, or maybe like one of those £1 off things. And I remember Mum saying to me like, oh, I know you like Jacqueline Wilson, why don't you try and get the why don't you get this one, because it's a 2-in-1 book. Also, $7.99. Since when were 2 books in one $7.99? Like, you don't, that just doesn't happen anymore. But she was like, you should get the one that's 2-in-1, because then you're getting like, you're spending less for like more books. And I was like, that makes sense. And I loved Jacqueline Wilson at the time, but when I read this, when I first read it, I found it too difficult, like too grown up, which is weird because this is a kid's book. But when at the age I was at, I could have even been like 6 or 7 or something, and I found it kind of difficult. I didn't really know what was going on, so I left it and came back to it a couple of years later. And it's just a girl, this redhead, who is in a foundling hospital, and she doesn't want to be a servant like the rest of the girls are training to be, and she just goes on adventures. And she grows up and she tries to find out who her real mum is. She tries to find out who her dad is. She ends up going to like a circus. There's like a whole series. You have Sapphire Battersea, which is this one, Hetty Feather. You've got Emerald Star. There's one called Little Stars, which is no, that's not the one I'm thinking of. You have Diamond, which is about a different girl who is in this world, and she's written so many books about this specific world. There's also one called Clover Moon, which is another girl, but they actually cross paths at one point. And then you have Rose Rivers, which is a really lovely book about someone who comes up in Hetty Feather's Christmas. Sorry, that is Marley. He's like scratching. You okay? He's okay. He looks like a croissant at the moment. He like curls up in a croissant shape. It's so cute. Yeah, so there's a book called Hetty Feather's Christmas, which I read every single Christmas. I do read it every Christmas. It's just the Christmas book. And then one of the you learn about these characters called the Rivers, and then Jacqueline Wilson wrote a book. I don't know how many there must be like 8 or something in this series, but it's just a lovely world. It's set in like the Victorian era, and that's really fun to read about and read what these children get up to. Like Hetty Feather is just a little menace, but you learn to like love her for it, and she just gets up to so many adventures. And I wish Jacqueline Wilson came out with another book after Little Stars, because she ends up, I don't know if this is spoilers. If you haven't read it and you want to, just like don't listen to this. But she ends up being like actually working in like a theatre, and she has this guy called Bertie, and they're like just about to get together, and then the book ends, and you meet Bertie in Sapphire Battersea. So the fact that like it's taken them like 5 books to get together, and then you're like, you just want them. I don't know. That was me as a child. I don't actually know if I would read much Jacqueline Wilson now. My opinion has changed a lot on Jacqueline Wilson, because like I read a book by her that was called The Runaway Girls, and it was basically Hetty Feather rewritten. It felt like that. A lot of the tropes that I saw within the book are ones that I've seen in Hetty Feather. And I just don't, maybe I'm just getting older or something, but there's something about her books that I think I'm outgrowing a little bit. I'm not sure, I don't know what I'm saying, but I can't see myself picking up many of her books anytime soon. Have I read any of her new stuff? I think I read one of her new books. I read like The Faraway Tree, which is like a spin-off of like The Magic Faraway Tree, which was like absolutely delightful, by the way. That is like total whimsical. I love like whimsical kids' books, like Alice in Wonderland. It's just like what is going on, but it's like whimsical, and I like that. Anyways, that's like completely going off topic. Yeah, I think that's enough rambling for me of just talking about books, and yeah, you got to meet my dog as well. But yeah, I hope that gives you a bit of an insight into just some things that I love, books that I love, things that I'm interested in, and maybe sometime I can talk more about books. So thank you for watching. It's lovely to have you, and enjoy the rest of your day.